Welcome to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. I'm Matthew of castingacross.com, where I explore the quarry and culture of fly fishing. Hey, before we go any further, I want you to know that I'm a real person. I'm not a robot. The only thing slightly robotic about this podcast episode is this kind of droid-looking microphone sitting in front of me, but I am all the way real. We're talking about AI and fly fishing and how they intersect in a very specific way that is actually kind of timely, and I'll introduce that concept here in a moment for this 349th episode. But I do want to say nothing I write on Casting Across is AI. There is a lot of AI generated fly fishing content out there, and some of it is actually linked to me. I'll get a bunch of traffic every once in a while from a website and think, oh, that's interesting. I wonder who wrote this, and I get there, and it is obviously AI generated content. And there are fly fishing pages, there are general fishing and outdoor and hunting and camping and hiking pages that I've been included in these websites, and it is almost all AI generated stuff. And I think the most, I won't say insidious, but the most scary is that there are gear review websites that are almost all AI generated. I'm sure there's somebody somewhere, behind a keyboard or flipping a switch or something like that. But generally speaking, there's some pretty robust gear review websites that are obviously done with AI. So just know that that's there. And I guess I am saying Casting Across is better than that because I am a person. A robot has never gone fly fishing. It might happen one day, but it hasn't happened yet. And so all the content you're going to get from me on the website, on the podcast, on the YouTube channel, on social media, it's all real. Now, here's my caveat. I have used AI image generation for some of the header photographs for some Casting Across articles, but it's pretty stinking obvious that that's what it is the times that I've done it. One, for example, is a trout floating over a river. That didn't happen. I didn't actually find that. Hopefully nobody thought that I was deceiving them when I put that picture up there. Another one was a fake album cover for a podcast greatest hits list. Again, it's definitely fake. And the third one was like a Thomas Kincaid style Christmas tree on a trout stream. And I don't think anyone's going to be calling me up to use that for a calendar. And if they did, I would say, by all means, use it. Just please don't put my name on it. So all that to say, Casting Across is relatively untouched by artificial intelligence. But the reason why I wanted to talk about it today was because I get emails from organizations, companies, whatever, robots themselves maybe, that I have no clue who they are, no relationship with. And then I get them from some of the platforms that I put Casting Across content on. And they are offering AI suggestions left, right, and center. And by and large, I ignore it because I have more ideas than I have days of the week to write about them. So I feel like I don't need a robot telling me what to do. But this was interesting because one of the most recent set of emails, I got it from a couple different platforms. I won't do any sort of marketing for them, but they said, this is the thing that your audience wants to know. Well, I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if this is truly the kind of thing that the Casting Across audience wants to know. So I'm actually going to address some of these issues today on the podcast. I'm going to respond to what AI thinks that you want me to talk about. And by all means, please let me know, yes, this was interesting, or no, this was terrible, because this is the kind of thing I think that AI is actually beneficial for, aggregating data. So one of these is I know pulling comments off of YouTube videos and some other things to generate. These are the kind of things that people are asking about. And so I see this as a beneficial use of AI, aggregating data that I, as a human, can process. So all that to say, we'll get into some of these questions and topics. And like I said, please let me know, Matthew at castingacross.com. Is this indeed an accurate reflection of the kind of thing that you want to hear about? So we'll start with the first thing, which is how to choose the right fly wallet. How to choose the right fly wallet. And you might say, hey, don't you usually do a question and answer podcast? I do. It'll be coming up in a couple of episodes, but this is, that's from people. This is from robots, right? All right. How to choose the right fly wallet. So what is a fly wallet? So you may be familiar with fly wallet from using them, and if not, you've certainly seen them if you've seen any kitschy fly fishing artwork. This is that fleece lined. Basically, it's a wallet. It's maybe a leather or a piece of nylon with fleece on the inside, and you stick your flies in it. It is effectively a stand-in for a fly box. Now, there's a few benefits to a fly wallet. One of them is that it is not rigid. A fly wallet can go into a pocket, whether it be a shirt pocket or a pants pocket, much easier than a fly box of similar size can go in there. And it's also going to flex and move with you, whether it's made out of nylon or it's made out of leather. Another benefit of it is that it can kind of expand a little bit. It can go flat, it can go thin, whereas a metal or plastic fly box can't do that. There are some drawbacks to fly wallets in that they hang on to moisture. There's a very good chance that you've also had seen a fly wallet with a fleece interior with very, very rusty hooks in it. That is probably the biggest drawback. I've heard things where people say, "Well, if it's real untreated wool, then like some of the chemicals that are naturally occurring on sheep skin will help keep the flies." Blah blah blah. Maybe I don't know. I could research that. What I know is that most wool fly wallets that I've seen, you want to air them out, and those hooks probably are going to be a little compromised. With that said, I don't like using wool fly wallets. I don't like using wool fly patches. There are fly wallets made by a couple companies, but the one that I think started it is Vitavu up here in New England, and he makes his fly wallets with the fuzzy side of Velcro, the hook and loop closure, to use the non-name branded title, but the fuzzy side of it, and so you get that grippy benefit, but it's a plastic, and so it is not going to hang on to moisture. I have never worn one of these things out. I use mine for poppers for a few reasons. One, the popper doesn't have a whole lot to crush, and if there are feathers coming off of the back of that popper, then the body of that popper is going to create a buffer so that those feathers are protected. I also, for me, I love to throw a fly wallet up in like my shirt pocket, and if I am fishing poppers, I'm generally wet wading. I'm probably going deep, so that's how I use my fly wallet primarily. I have two big ones. One is for freshwater poppers, bass, panfish, the like, and one is for saltwater poppers. That is how I use my fly wallets. I think they're also great for more traditional streamers, streamers that are going to be flat. You don't want anything that is going to be compressed. Although some, materials like the longer stringier hackles on like a woolly bugger aren't going to be too compromised. But I'm not going to keep dry flies in a fly wallet. I'm sure nymphs would be fine also to keep in there. But again, my preference is to use my fly wallets for poppers and for flat streamers. And a nice thing about this, like I said before, is that whereas you might need a bulkier box to store some of your dry flies, these can be a much more compact and flat fly box. So if space is a concern in your vest, in your sling, in your pack, then having a fly wallet that is a little bit more streamlined is going to fit in there better. I also like a fly wallet for the reason that if I've got a couple of fly boxes in the main compartment of my sling or my vest, I can kind of slide the fly wallet somewhere else on my pack. It doesn't need to necessarily drop into that main compartment because it's a little bit flatter. So there you go. That was what one of the robots wanted you to know, or wanted to know on behalf of you, I guess is how I would say it. And I think that's actually some pretty good information. So that's what I would say the right fly wallet for carrying flies would be for you. If you have questions about that, let me know. I see some other cool fly wallets out there, but the hook and loop, the fuzzy Velcro ones from Vitavu are the ones I have the most experience with. All right. Next question is wading boot sizing, especially for wide feet. So I think this is fantastic. This is a great robot question. Wading boot sizing, especially for wide feet. So something that I've talked about before is that I think wading boots are one of the most exceptionally underrated aspects of fly fishing gear. They are not fun, they're not attractive, you can't see them, but they are what keep you upright, they are what keep you comfortable, and they are what keep you safe. And so I am all about throwing a lot of money at wading boots. And the problem, though, is that if you are on a budget or you definitely want to just walk into a fly shop and try on a pair of wading boots before you buy them, your options are kind of limited because it's not like you can go to a shoe store and where you'll have 100 different options of different types of sneakers. A fly shop might have three or four, or a really big fly shop maybe a dozen options for wading boots. I don't know if I've ever been to a fly shop that has that many. How do you look for a boot that is wider or maybe just accommodates a different shaped foot, an atypical foot? Well, there's a few things that you can do. One is look for boots that are not super rubber heavy around the part of your foot that you want to be wider. So, for example, if you want a wider toe box, try to find a boot that is not primarily rubber across the toe cap. It's maybe more of a nylon, something that is going to flex a little bit more. That's, in my opinion, a great first place to look, especially if you are in a fly shop and you're looking at your options. Generally, the more mid or low priced boots are going to have a little less protection, but because of that, it's going to be more of a nylon forward design, and that allows a little bit more stretch and flex, which could accommodate your shape of foot. Another thing to consider is that you can always get a pair of neoprene booties to kind of fill out a boot that may be a little bit long for you and accommodate a foot that needs a little bit more space, but you can have that little bit of compression based upon what you're wearing inside of your boot. But then as far as brands go, Sims have the reputation for being a little wider. Patagonia, I know both those brands are a little more expensive. Corkers has some that I know fit folks with wider feet a little bit better. And then Redington, and I think they're kind of phasing some of their wading gear out. But Redington boots, especially this most recent generation of their wading boots, were built on a wider platform and are very, very comfortable for folks with wider feet. Not necessarily a brand that you automatically associate with wading gear, but they fit that mold literally. So that is my advice for seeking out wading boots if you have a wider foot. First of all, if you can go and try them on, look for ones that don't have a lot of rubber or hard plastic. Secondly, you look at ways that you can maybe bolster your under boot wear to kind of fill it out so that it doesn't feel like you're fishing and wading in a long boot. And then thirdly, check out those brands that I suggested. Okay, so the robots wanted me to talk to you about fly wallets. They wanted me to talk to you about wading boot sizes, and they wanted me to talk to you about DIY fly fishing projects for beginners. So this is interesting. They basically said, should people start tying flies, building fly rods, or doing something else? Now, here's what I would say. No matter what you do, no matter what you choose to do, try to go to a class. Now, I have nothing against YouTube. I have nothing against books. I use YouTube to talk about books. However, if you are going to embark on a journey of building fly rods, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but you will have such a leg up if you go and you watch someone do it, and you can potentially even go hands-on and see how it works. The same is true with fly tying. Fly tying is a wonderful hobby, and it's something that isn't just adjacent to fly fishing, but it's its own thing, as you probably know. But if you're a beginner, my recommendation is that whatever you want to do, please, please, please go and seek out a class. This does a few things. If even if it's a modest fee, supports people that are willing to teach people some of these important fly fishing skills and these fun fly fishing skills. Secondly, this is a great way to not be discouraged, because I can tell you, both from rod building and from fly tying, if you're doing it based on photographs or even a YouTube video, and you're like, I'm seeing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I can't replicate that here, that can get remedied if you have that person standing with you. So I don't think there's necessarily one thing that is better than another because, yeah, fly tying is great, but fly tying has a big learning curve, and it's not like that, oh, I tied a fly, which means I can tie these 3 dries, these 3 nymphs, these 3 streamers that are very different from one another. It's especially as you're learning, you're really having to learn new skills for virtually every fly. It's a fine thing to do, but it's not like you arrive very, very quickly. And with building a rod, it's almost it seems like a bigger project, but there's a greater payoff. Like if you have one fly rod, you have a 308, and like I really want a 5-weight. And I also am considering building a fly rod. That's a great way to do it. You're going to save yourself a little bit of money. It's going to be functional, as long as you pay attention to where you put the guides and you just take your time. There might be too much epoxy. Things might not be perfectly straight, but it's going to be functional and it'll be a fun thing to do. You can always strip it down and put something else on the blank. But like I said, as great as YouTube is, great as books are, definitely go and seek somebody out. Try to get their help and support them in their efforts to continue to share their passion with other anglers. All right, one last thing to talk about. And this one says fly fishing in the urban jungle. And they even gave me a little picture of somebody fly fishing in a city. So there's so much we could talk about here. And I think I actually have a podcast only a couple of weeks ago, maybe like a month and a half ago, where I talk about this. Could be longer. But I would just say here, just go and fish. As long as it's legal, go and fish. Not recently, sometime in the last 5 years, I was fishing in downtown somewhere, and law enforcement official said, "Please don't do that here." And I didn't argue, but I came back later and said, "Hey, what was the deal with that?" And he said they had an event coming up soon, and he just wanted to kind of, clear the area before the event started. Totally fine. Probably could have just said that up front, but otherwise, whether it be in DC, whether it be in Boston, there's a handful of other cities that I've fished in, and it's just a lot of fun, and you get to have really cool conversations. Now, the fishing is great, and I know for a lot of us, it's the fishing, it's the solitude, it's the tranquility. Well, if you're fishing in a big city, you can't expect solitude, you can't expect tranquility. But one of the great things about urban fly fishing is you get to have some very interesting interactions with people. And you also get to have some very interesting interactions with fish. I found that you come across interesting species. I find that you come across fish that are incredibly large for relatively small locales. Because folks aren't fishing for them and they're probably getting fed or they're having some interesting forage sources. And so it's just a worthwhile thing to do. Again, it's something I've written about and I've talked about at length. Definitely go back into the archives if you want to find more information on fishing in cities, how you can do that. All right, so there's 4 quick things that AI wanted me to talk about. So let me know. Are those legitimate topics? Are those the kind of things that you would have wanted to listen to me talk about, even if a person asked it? So let me know. Matthew at castingacross.com. Okay, this week, 2 articles. The first one is called The Most Important Fly Fishing Rod Review. And it's the most important fly fishing rod review. If you want to know about a fly rod that you need to appreciate, that you need to spend more time thinking about, then go and read this fly rod review. I'm serious as a heart attack. You will thank me for it. All right, The Most Important Fly Fishing Rod Review came out July 14th, 2025. Put it on your calendars. And then the Wednesday article this week was called Video, Get to Know Trout Unlimited. This is a really cool book that I don't think I saw much publicity about outside of the 50th anniversary of Trout Unlimited's founding. It's called Rivers of Restoration, and it came out in 2008 by a gent named John Ross, and it is 22 vignettes about TU projects in the first 50 years of their existence. And it's a really fun read because it gives you beginning, middle, and end of these conservation projects. A lot of times you read articles about of river conservation, and it's like, we need to do this. This is the thing we need to do, which is great. And even TU Magazine, that's kind of what the bulk of these articles is focused on. But this book, it gives you some really cool success stories. And one of the things I like about it is it gives you some perspective on how the good old days maybe weren't so good, but because of things that we've done, we've made them better. Like, you go far enough back and they were great, and then they went downhill and now they're better. And so some of that perspective comes in Rivers of Restoration. And Rivers of Restoration is a large format book with big, big pictures, which I always like. I mean, I like reading, but it's fun to have some really cool pictures when you have the author describing things that would be great to see. This week's recommendation is actually something I mentioned earlier in the podcast. It is the VitaVoo Fly Wallet, but this is their mesh shell version. So if you want your flies to dry out in a fly wallet that you may be wearing in the surf or you may be wearing wet wading, then this is the one to do it. It's an entirely plastic design, different types of nylon, but it has that fuzzy hook and loop closure Velcro on the inside. There's 4 different sizes: 6-inch, 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch. And then it has a ventilated mesh exterior. So this is going to allow for circulation and airflow. I would still recommend you open the sucker up and lay it out in your car after you're done fishing, but this is going to be your best bet for protecting your hooks, protecting your materials that your flies are tied with. Handmade in the United States to order, a handful of colors that are available, but definitely check out the VitaVoo Mesh Shell Fly Wallet. I'll put a link in this podcast show notes over at castingacross.com. Thanks for listening to the Casting Across Fly Fishing Podcast. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app and leave a rating and a review over at Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Then head over to castingacross.com for 3 posts a week on the people, places, and things that go into the pursuit of fish.